ते वासुदेवाय।
भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासां
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासा
ततो जयमुदीरये। So last time we have discussed from 16 to 24 in 9 verses how Lord is explaining about the karma, how karma leads to transcendental knowledge. So henceforth from 25th to 33, Lord is going to explain about yajnas, how the performance of yajna can lead us to transcendental knowledge. So here he says in the text number 25th, दैवमेवा परे यज्ञं योगिना पर्युपासते ब्रह्माग्नौ परे यज्ञं यज्ञैनैवोपजुह्वति. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. In the purport, Prabhupada says, as described above, the person engaged in discharging duties in Krishna consciousness is also called a perfect yogi or a first class mystic. Gaurav Bro, can you just switch on the last button, the first one from the door? Thank you. But there are others also who perform similar sacrifices in the worship of demigods, and still others who sacrifice to the Supreme Brahman or the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord. So, there are different kinds of sacrifices in terms of a different categories. Such a different categories of sacrifice by different types of a performers only superficially demark varieties of sacrifice. Factually, sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, who is also known as Yajna. All the different varieties of a sacrifice can be placed within two primary divisions, namely sacrifice for worldly possessions and sacrifice in pursuit of a transcendental knowledge. So here is a specific categorization of sacrifices has given. One which is meant for the worldly possessions, that you do it for the pleasure of a demigods, to seek something from them, to get some sort of a material pleasure. And the other one that is explained here as in the pursuit of the transcendental knowledge. So further Prabhupada says here, those who are in the Krishna consciousness sacrifice all material possession for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, while others who want some temporary material happiness sacrifice their material possession to satisfy demigods such as Indra, the sun god, etc. And others who are impersonalist sacrifice their identity by merging into the existence of an impersonal Brahman. Even these Mayavadis, they also perform sacrifice. But what they sacrifice? They sacrifice their own identity. As Lord explained in further chapters of Bhagavad Gita that Mamaya Amsho Jivaloke Jivabhuta Sanatana. The living entities, they have their own identity, and their identity is what? They are the part and parcels of the Lord. And being part and parcel of the Lord, they are the servant of the Lord. Ekala Ishvara Krishna Ara Sabha Bhritya. There is only one controller, supreme controller, that is Krishna, and all others are his servants. So Mayavadis, what they think? They think that they themselves are like a god. So they lose their identity. So what they sacrifice? They sacrifice their own identity. And they try to merge into the Brahman or into the Brahma Jyoti, the impersonal feature of the Lord. It is considered as a suicide. Losing your own identity is like a dying. So the Mayavadis, they commit suicide actually. They lose their own identity as the servant of the God. But they try to create their own ID or identity as God himself. So here they sacrifice their own identity. Further, Prabhupada says, the demigods, those who are in Krishna consciousness, sacrifice all material possession for the satisfaction of the Lord. Supreme Lord. While others who want some temporary material happiness sacrifice their material possession to satisfy the demigod such as Indra and Sun God. See, in Krishna consciousness, person sacrifices his sense gratification. Okay? The person who wants material benefits, he sacrifices. What he sacrifices?
Material.
His material possessions. For what? To please demigods like Chandra, Indra, so that they can get more from them. Just giving 10 rupees and 10 bucks and asking 100 bucks. That's their mentality. So further it is said, the demigods are powerful living entities appointed by the Supreme Lord for the maintenance and supervision of the material functions like heating, watering, lighting of the universe. Those who are interested in material benefits worship the demigods. For Pandidana. Those who are interested in the material benefits worship the demigods by various sacrifices according to the Vedic rituals. They are called Bahava Ishwaravadi or believers of many gods. But others who worship the impersonal feature of the absolute truth and regard the forms of the demigods as a temporary, sacrifice their individual selves in the supreme fire and thus ends their individual existence by merging into the existence of the Supreme. Such impersonalists sacrifice their time in philosophical speculation to understand the transcendental nature of the Supreme. In other words, the fruitive workers sacrifice their material possession for material enjoyment, whereas the impersonalist sacrifice his material designation with a view to merge in the existence of the Supreme. For the impersonalist, the fire altar of sacrifice is the Supreme Brahman, and the offering is the self being consumed by the fire of Brahman. The Krishna conscious person like Arjun, whoever sacrifices everything for the satisfaction of Krishna and Thus, all his material possession as well as his own self, everything is sacrificed for Krishna. Thus, he is the first class yogi, but he does not lose his individual existence. So, making clear three things here. First, there are sacrifices performed by materialistic people who are interested in some material gains for their own satisfaction or satisfaction of their senses. They sacrifice their possessions to please particular demigod. But what is their intent? They desire for more sense gratification. Okay. Second thing, the impersonalist. So the first people, they are considered as Bahu Ishwaravadi, means who believes in many demigods. Then there are personalities who are merging themselves in impersonal Brahman. This impersonalist, they spend their time in philosophical speculation, and thus they sacrifice their own individual identity in merging in the supreme Brahman. And third one is devotees. Devotees, what they do? They sacrifice everything to please Krishna. Like Arjun, he just followed what Krishna said, and for that purpose he sacrificed everything: his position, his working method, his family, his relatives, everything he just sacrificed. For what? To please Krishna. And such a devotees are considered as the topmost yogis. Amongst the all transcendentalists who are trying to get connected with the Lord, devotees are considered the topmost yogis. That's where Prabhupada concludes this purport. Then further he says, then what are the different types of sacrifices and who are the people they perform this? So the first sacrifice, now it is explained in the 26th verse about the sacrifice that has performed by the brahmacharis, the celibates. Shotrarinindriyanyanne sanyam agnishu juyate shabdarin vishayananya indriya agnishu juvate. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of a mental control. And others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses. Now here, the performers, different performers, what do they sacrifice and what fire they use, that has explained. For the brahmacharis, the most important thing is hearing and controlling his senses. The first degradation of mind happens hearing. How? When someone is born, now you have get a realization. Fresh. We enforce some different identity on that soul. Hey, I'm your father, See, that is mama, that is mama, that is tata, that is tande, tai, so many things. What we do? We are superimposing all these identities on that soul. And that time only one sense is very prominent through which they get knowledge, that is ear. So hearing itself causes us get entangled into the material world. So what does the brahmachari do? The unadulterated celibate brahmachari, what he does? He sacrifices his hearing tendency into the fire of mental control. By controlling his mind, He controls that what he has to hear and where he has to shun his ears, so that contamination of heart should not happen. So the best way for the brahmacharis, what they have to sacrifice? They have to sacrifice the hearing gramya katha, means social talks or prajalpa, gossip. One has to be very careful about that. Then further it is said, the others, the regulated householders. See, the Prabhupada has used word here, regulated householders. Means who has control over their senses for development of their spiritual life. So what they do? Sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of senses. Let's understand this, what Prabhupada explains about this. The member of four divisions of human life, namely the brahmacharis, the grahasthas, the vanaprastha, and the sannyasi, are all meant to become perfect yogis or transcendentalists. That's why all these ashram, all these different designation, it's called as a ashrama. Ashrama means what? A place where you can make spiritual advancement. So there is a brahmachari ashram, grahastha ashram, vanaprastha ashram, and sannyas ashram. Ashram is the place where you can make spiritual advancement, irrespective of whether it is a brahmachari, whether it is a grahastha, whether it is a vanaprasthi, or whether it is a sannyasi. All these ashramas meant to make you perfect yogi. It's not necessary that to become a yogi you have to become only a sannyasi. By being a brahmachari, by staying a grahastha, or living like as a vanaprasthi also, you can become a yogi. What you need to do to become a yogi? Since human life is not meant for enjoying sense gratification like animals, the four orders of a human life are so arranged that one may become perfect in spiritual life. The brahmacharis, or students under the care of a bona fide spiritual master, control the mind by abstaining from sense gratification. A brahmachari hears only words concerning Krishna consciousness. Hearing is the basic principle for understanding, and therefore the pure brahmachari engages fully in Harer Namanukirtanam, chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. He restrains himself from the vibrations of a material sounds, and his hearing is engaged in the transcendental sound vibration of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So here, the most important thing for a brahmachari is, as explained, that they have to, what they have to do? They have to restrain themselves from hearing a social talk. They should hear only about things which are concerning with the Krishna consciousness. Harer Namanu Kirtanam. That's only to hear about the glorification of the holy name and the glorification of the Lord. Then further Prabhupada says, similarly the householders who have some license for sense gratification perform such acts with a great restraint. Sex life, intoxication, and meat eating are general tendencies of a human society, but a regulated householder does not indulge in unrestricted sex life and other sense gratification. So this is what means sacrificing the objects of sense gratification in senses. So fire here itself is senses. An object of senses is the oblation that they use. Getting it? Huh? Marriage on the principles of a religious life is therefore current in all civilized human society because that is the way for the restricted sex life. This restricted, unattached sex life is also a kind of a yajna because the restricted householder sacrifice is a general tendency towards sense gratification for higher transcendental life. So here, the progenation activity is considered as a yajna, praja srishti yajna, for the prajotpadana, to have good future generation and human civilization. They do this. If they have this sort of a thinking, then there will be a chance of a civilized human being to come in the society. Otherwise, there is no scarcity of cats and dogs in the form of a human being. You can see nowadays, they have a zero patience. Like if you're going on the freeway and your speed is little bit less, then the person from the backside, he comes in your same speed, and what he does he says hello to you, or what he does? He says, why? They don't have a patience. They don't have a tolerance. Are they human being? Some sort of two-legged animals. Because the first and foremost quality of a human being is tolerance. They can tolerate, others can't. Then further in the next verse, it is explained, Sarvani indriya karmani prana karmani chapare atma sanyama yogagnau juvati jnana deepite. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through the control of a mind and senses offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as an oblation into the fire of the controlled mind. Now, the yajna which is done by the Ashtanga yogis has explained here. Generally, to realize the super soul in everyone's heart, these Ashtanga yogis, they perform different austerities. What actually they do, that has explained in this verse. Generally, the purpose of performing Ashtanga yoga is to control your mind and senses. But nowadays, why they do yoga? To look slim and trim, to have a better sex life, to look younger than what they are. That's the purpose of today's yoga. But what is the actual purpose of yoga? To control your mind and senses. Why to do that? What is the reason for that? To achieve self-realization. So the purpose of yoga is to achieve self-realization through controlling your mind and senses. So what they do actually, they offer the functions of all the senses and offer the life breath as a oblations into the fire of the control mind. So what is the fire here?
Control mind.
Control mind. And what is the oblation?
Functions.
Huh?
Functions of the sense.
Objects or through which the activities that you perform from the senses, all they are sacrificed into the fire of control mind. Further it is explained, Dravya yajnastapo yajna yoga yajnastatha pare स्वाध्याय यज्ञ ज्ञान यज्ञाश यतया संशित व्रतः. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing in their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of the Eightfold Mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in the transcendental knowledge. Let's go back and read the previous purport, because Prabhupada, he explains there about pancha pranas in our body. Because here it is said that the life breath, that is also used as an oblation. So what is that actually? Life breath. In English, you have only one word, that is life. What do you call breath or breathe? Breath. Breath. Huh? So this breath, you have only one. But in Sanskrit, there are 5 different categories that has explained. We'll just see that what are they. The yoga system conceived by Patanjali is referred to herein. In the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, the soul is called Pratyag Atma and Parag Atma. As long as soul is attached to sense enjoyment, is called as Parag Atma. But as soon as the same soul becomes detached from such a sense enjoyment, is called Pratyag Atma. The soul is subjected to the functions of 10 kinds of air at work within the body, and this is perceived through the breathing system. The Patanjali system of yoga instructs one on how to control the functions of the body's air in the technical manner, so that ultimately all the functions of the air within become favorable for purifying the soul of material attachment. According to the yoga system, Pratyag Atma is the ultimate goal. This Pratyag Atma is withdrawn from activities in matter. The senses interact with the sense objects, like the ear for hearing, eyes for seeing, nose for smelling, tongue for tasting, and hand for touching. And all of them are thus engaged in activities outside the self. They are called functions of the pranavayu. The apanavayu goes downwards. Vyanavayu acts to shrink and expand. Samanvayu adjusts equilibrium. Udana Vayu goes upward, and when one is enlightened, one engages all these in searching for a self realization. Once your breath is controlled, you can have a control over your own body. Because all the bodily elements, they are in movement because of these different sorts of airs they are present in our body. Prana, Pranavayu is considered as a source of energy. Samana is there for the equilibrium. Because of a Samana Vayu present in our body, it controls the temperature of your body. It tries to maintain the temperature of body as same as the temperature of outside, so that you can have a comfort zone. That's why you can see yogis who stays in Himalayas in ice. They can sit and they can very easily perform austerities. But what happens actually? If common man goes, he shivers. He will get totally shrunk because of cold. But these people, nothing happens to them because they have that control over this Samana Vayu. Then there is a Vyan. Because of Vyan Vayu, this contraction and expansion happens. Blinking of, what do you call, eyelids? Huh? We don't know how many times we blink it. Do we know? Unconsciously it's going on. Who is doing that? You? It is done by the Vyana Vayu that present in your body. Expansion and contraction happens because of Vyana. Apan, that pushes downward, and that generally gets activated when a woman, she has to give birth to child. That Apan Vayu pushes that embryo out, that fetus out from the embryo. Not embryo, but that fetus from the embryo. Then Udana Vayu. Udana Vayu goes upwards. When soul gets enlightened, that Udana Vayu pushes that soul upward. And at the time of perfection of the yoga, that same Vayu pushes that soul from Sahasrara, and that gets liberated from Brahmarandra. So all this function happens by controlling your breath. So if you control prana, that's why they call it as a pranayam. Ayam means controlling, keeping under control in its limitation. So when this pancha pranas, there are another 5 also. Altogether 10 different airs are there in your body, like Naga, Dhananjaya, Devadatta, Kurka, and one more. These 10, they causes different bodily parts to move. And that's why all the activities are happening. This paralysis means what? One of the Vayu in the body stops moving in that part of the body. So that body get paralyzed. It can't move there. Huh? You need someone to move it. Then further, after explaining this Ashtanga Yoga system, Lord is further explaining about what are the different sort of yagas are done by different personalities. Like Dravya Yajna, Stapo Yajna, Yoga Yajna Tatha Pare, Swadhyaya Yajna Jnanascha, Yataya Samshita Vrata. Having accepted strict vows, some becomes enlightened by sacrificing their possessions. That is the first one. The materialistic people, they do. But when they do it for the ultimate result, then what they get? They get enlightened in the transcendental knowledge. Then further, others by performing severe austerities like Ashtanga yogis, by practicing of the eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in the transcendental knowledge. So Prabhupada in this purport, he says, these sacrifices may be fitted into various divisions. There are persons who are sacrificing their possession in the form of various kinds of charities. In India, the rich mercantile community or princely order open various kinds of a charitable institution like a dharmashala, annakshetra, athitishala, anathalaya and vidyapit. In other countries too, there are many hospitals, old age homes and the similar charitable foundations meant for distributing food, education and medical treatment free to the poor. All these charitable activities are called Dravyamaya Yajna. So giving donation for the right cause is also considered as a Dravyamaya Yajna. There are others who, for higher elevation in life or for promotion of a higher planets within the universe, voluntarily accepts many kinds of austerities, such as Chandrayana and Chaturmasya. The process entails severe vows for conducting life under the certain rigid rules. For example, under the Chaturmasya vow, the candidate does not shave for 4 months during the year, July to October. He does not eat certain food, does not eat twice in a day, or does not leave home. Such a sacrifice of the control comforts of a life is called Tapomaya Yajna. There are still other who engages themselves in a different kinds of a mystic yogas, like the Patanjali system, for merging into the existence of the Absolute, or Hatha Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga for particular perfections. And some travel to all the sanctified places of pilgrimage. All these practices are called Yoga Yajna, sacrifice for certain type of perfection in material world. There are others who engage themselves in the study of the different Vedic literatures, specifically the Upanishads and Vedanta Sutras, or Sankhya philosophy. All of these are called Swadhyaya Yajna, or engagement in the sacrifice of studies. All these yogis are faithfully engaged in the different types of a sacrifice and are seeking a higher status of a life. Krishna consciousness, however, is a different from this because it is the direct service of the Supreme Lord. Krishna consciousness cannot be attended by any one of the above mentioned type of sacrifice, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotees. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental. So here, the whole thing ultimately boils down toward Krishna consciousness. All these different types of sacrifices you may do, but that will not give you ultimate result, that is Krishna consciousness. One thing is done for gratifying your senses, through which you may attain the transcendental knowledge. Second thing, by engaging yourself in Ashtanga Yoga system, which is recommended by Patanjali, through which what happens? You may desire to merge into the impersonal Brahman, or you may try to attain some sort of a mystic power, but you will not attain devotional service through that, or devotion to them. Someone may endeavor for what? They try to learn different Upanishads, Vedic scriptures, and so many things. But that does not gives them the ultimate understanding, which is none other than the Krishna consciousness. So what leads us to Krishna consciousness? That has explained further. अपाने जुह्वति प्राणं प्राणे अपानं तथा परे प्राणापान गतिरुद्ध्वा प्राणायामपरायणः अपरे नियतारा प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति. Still others who are inclined to the process of breathing restrained to remain in trance practice by offering the movement of outgoing breath into the incoming and incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. So here the whole process of pranayam has explained how through the pranayam one can control on kumbhak and rechak, inhaling and exhaling. See, our life duration is not counted on our age. It's not a vayo maryada, but it has a maryada for our breath, pranas. How many pranas that you have to inhale? Our life duration is depending upon that. So how they used to prolong their lifespan? That is explained here. Through controlling, inhaling and exhaling. That's why you can find there are yogis who are living for last 1200 years and more than that. There was one yogi, we used to see him in Kumbh Mela. He was there for last 1200 years. Can you imagine? His name was Devara Baba. Then one particular dynasty, there are 7 dynasties of that people, they have seen him. Can you imagine? In the Kumbh Mela, he used to sit on one, what they call, generally the security is the high posts, like that he used to make, and he used to sit on top. And he was fluent in all languages. That happens because if you control your breath, you can control your lifespan, and that keeps your brain so intact and fresh, you never forget anything. So if you want to remember, that's why they prefer, for the better concentration, they do this pranayama, they control their breath. Whoever has a problem with the memory loss, they should practice this pranayama. And it works. That's why it is said, the system of yoga for controlling the breathing process is called pranayama. And in the beginning, it is practiced in the Hatha Yoga system through different sitting postures. All of these processes are recommended for controlling the senses and for advancement in self-realization. This practice involves controlling the airs within the body so as to reverse the directions of their passage. The apana air goes downward and the prana air goes up. The pranayam yogi practices breathing the opposite way until the currents are neutralized into puraka, equilibrium. Offering the exhaled breath into the inhaled breath is called rechaka. When both air currents are completely stopped, one is said to be in a kumbhaka yoga. By practice of kumbhaka yoga, one can increase the duration of a life for perfection in spiritual realization. The intelligent yogi is interested in attaining perfection if in one life without waiting for the next. For by practicing Kumbhaka Yoga, the yogis increases the duration of a life by many years. A Krishna conscious person, however, being always situated in a transcendental loving service to the Lord, automatically become the controller of the senses. His senses, being always engaged in the service of Krishna, have a no chance of becoming otherwise engaged. So, at the end of life, he naturally transferred to the transcendental plane of Lord Krishna. Consequently, he makes no attempt to increase his longevity. He is at once raised to the platform of a liberation as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Mam cha yo vyabicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samaitityan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord transcends the modes of material nature and is immediately elevated to the spiritual platform. A Krishna conscious person begins from transcendental stage and he is constantly in that consciousness. Therefore, there is a no falling down and ultimately he enters into the abode of Lord without delay. The practice of reduced eating is automatically done when one eats only Krishna Prasadam. Then going outside, eating in the restaurants, malls, everything gets curtailed automatically. Food which is offered first to the Lord. Reducing the eating process is very helpful in the matter of sense control. And without sense control, there is no possibility of getting out of the material entanglement. सर्वे अप्यते यज्ञविदो यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषः यज्ञाशिष्टामृतो भूजो यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम्. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tested the nature of the result of sacrifices, they advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere. Nayam loko ayastyas yajnasya kutonya kuru sattama. O best of Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? Evam bahuyajna vitata brahmano mukhe karmajan vidditan sarvan evam nyatva vimokshase. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of works. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. So whatever different sort of sacrifices we have discussed up till now, they cleanses you from your sins, and knowing them as a cleanser of our material contamination, one can become liberated. And then further Lord says that Shreyan Dravya Yajnyo Maya Yajna Jnana Yajna Param Tapa Sarva Karma Khilam Partha Jnane Parisamapyate. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in a knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice for material possessions. After all, O son of a Pritha, all sacrifice of work culminate in a transcendental knowledge. So, the purpose of all sacrifices is to arrive the status of complete knowledge. And what is that complete knowledge? And how to get that? The whole procedure has explained in the next verse. and that we will discuss next week. Okay. So, in brief, what we have discussed today? Yes,
Yagras.
yajnas. So, what are the different types of yajnas? Guruji, speak out. The last verse, just repeat the translation. Dravya yajna, jnana yajna, tapo yajna. Dravya yajna means sacrificing your possessions for the benefit of getting something higher than what you are having it now. Then second one is tapo yajna. Tapo yajna is for what? Yes, master. You need to do pranayama.
Becoming one with me.
Trying to merge into the Supreme Brahman, the impersonal feature of the Lord, or try to attain some mystical potencies, siddhis, perfections. And what is a Jnana Yajna? Jnana Yajna is for to get knowledge, reading different scriptures like Upanishads, Vedas, and related scriptures. But again, Lord says, by doing all these sacrifices, you are not going to get a Krishna consciousness. You may come to liberation. The liberation and Krishna consciousness is totally different. Then how to get that transcendental knowledge by which you can get Krishna consciousness or you can become devotee of the Lord. That we will discuss next week. Okay? Any comment? Any question?
This is practical.
Yeah, it's very much. See, actually, this 7 verses, they speak about all the processes that people follow considering themselves as a spiritualist. Some they do yajnas, they get engaged in philanthropical things, huh? Using their money for serving the human being. Huh? That's why they open some charitable trust, hospitals, schools, colleges. So that comes under Dravya Yajna. Everyone is engaged. Who are considering themselves a little bit spiritual, they do all these things. The other process is controlling breath, so that you can control your mind and your senses. Higher than that is knowledge, seeking knowledge, restricting your senses, concentrating your mind, focusing on the teachings of the Vedas. So these are the processes through which you can attain some sort of some achievement in your spiritual life. But the ultimate thing you will not get by this. That is something different. And how to achieve that, Lord is explaining in the next group of verses. So we can read them till next Wednesday and then we'll discuss on that. So it will become more easy for you to understand. Okay? Hare Krishna. Thank you. Can you just switch it up?